Okay.
Oh, there you go. You're live.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this week's Countless Chronicles.
Hi, guys. Hello. So we have with us the amazing, wonderful Jay, who plays Oshin.
Hello, that's me.
Yep. And we have a long session ahead. We have 15 episodes we have to recap. So please bear with us. We're going to be going through them really quickly. There's a couple of high points we definitely have to hit. So Tessa, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I will start us off way back in session 16, the 28th of Kasdan, which in our world, of course, is the last day of the month. So what ended up happening on that day is that we discovered that until the 17th, which was the anniversary of the date of the tragedy, the Nocturne are absent. So the only people really enforcing laws are hooligans. It's a little easier to get away with stuff. Sildana met with her mother, who instructed her to pick 5 suitors to basically make a short list of who Sildana will marry. Nathan met with his uncle, and they discussed the fact that the family business were in danger from all sorts of lesser cartographers who would be more than willing to do the king's bidding should they fail to continue to alter maps. At Owen's clinic, there was a gnome who came in suffering from the ill effects of Daydream, and he was so bad off that they were pretty sure he was going to die, and so the party waited until the very, very last second to have Pesk heal using lesser restoration the gnome, figuring life as a Goa would be better than no life at all. And Holly, of course, was very unhappy and stalked up. And of course, as soon as the gnome was cured, which actually I believe Soxy laid hands. Pesk did not cast lesser restoration. My apologies.
I think we ended up doing both, if I'm remembering correctly. Yes, Soxy tried lay on hands first because we were trying to see if maybe she could neutralize the poison with her lay on hands instead of actually doing a lesser restoration, and we thought maybe that would work instead, but it didn't.
Yeah. But of course, he ended up passing away and turning into a Goa, causing the other Goa to come running. A water genasi named Juice showed up at the clinic, and Owen, having held on to the little packet of powder that he had confiscated during the raid of the ship for the Zozo juice, finally gave that over, and Owen tried to get Juice to admit if he was the creator of the Daydream drug or not, which Juice said no. However, in exchange for some information, Juice asked for a few items that Owen said he could procure for them, among them being Phenajex, some of Button Leeches, and Velvet Cast.
Right, that was this episode.
Mm-hmm. Phenajex is the excretions of the anal gland of a male Feroche. velvet cast is soft cast-off fibers from underneath the chitin's wings. And, well, button leeches are leeches that just look like buttons when they're fully engorged. So they were able to get all of that in for him.
Yeah, luckily Pip was able to supply the Phenegex so we could get the information from him. That was an interesting episode.
I think it was they got the Phenegex and promised the velvet, and I don't think we ever found the leeches.
Yeah, the button leeches can only be found in Lamina Island, so we couldn't really get those for him. And Soxy actually produces the velvet cast when she molts once a year, but it's not that time of year yet. It's supposed to happen actually the coming month. So she already promised Owen and anyone else in the group that wanted to use some for anything that they could have when she's molted, because she's not going to do anything with it.
Exactly. The group heads over to the tea garden and are given the outside table, given the fact that Pip really smells very strongly of Phenegex at this moment. There's a discussion about the daydream, which we've discovered turns red from age. Pip goes for a swim to get clean and spots first Might and Wit running down the street chasing something, and we figure that they're heading towards the newly formed Goa. So we all chase after, going to the clinic. We arrive just in time to see Allure being born, or Al, as he prefers to be called. And Allure's hair shavings are determined to be raw air shale, which are kept. And the party kind of now feels a little dumb, having gotten rid of the dust and detritus from the previous 3 Goas being born when they have no hair, because that was a bunch of raw air shale that could have been very helpful to have. Afterwards, Owen meets with Juice, who is very impressed with the fact that we were able to acquire Phenegex so quickly, and they agree that as a sign that future business dealings will be beneficial. And afterwards, Nathan pulls Saldana aside and tries to talk about negotiations between the families for marriage, and asks Saldana on a date, in which Saldana then says she would not be opposed.
Yep, that was actually how we got the name for that episode, so it's a date. And one thing, too, that they also mentioned, Juice gave us more information, and we discovered that the organization creating the Daydream is a group called Victor. We don't know who they are, but
I completely forgot that, too. So thanks for the reminder.
I forgot about that. I mean, we didn't at this point in the game. We have names now.
Right. And we also know at least one of them who isn't involved in creating the drug. But we don't know who else is. All right. So that led us into session 17. Let's see. We started off at the Erasmus estate with Saldana giving her mother the list of names, and her mother basically dismissed all of the names except for Tybalt and Nathan, and told her, give me reasons why you'd be okay with one of them by the end of the day. Meanwhile, Syl went and met with the other Goa, that now of which there's 4. We have the first, we have Might, we have Wit, and we have Al, who is short for Allure. During all of their talking, basically it comes down to First wants to invite Syl to take the Daydream and join them, because those 4 Goa have some sort of connection that most Goa don't have with each other, and they think it has something to do with the way they were created and the drug. But for various reasons, not the least of which is that Syl doesn't know what's going to happen in terms of how much information they'll get from her. She chooses not to take the Daydream, and also tries to get across to them that she's concerned if they have all the information about how they were made, that they're just going to go out and make more people into Goa without caring whether or not it kills the person to turn them into the Goa. And essentially, First says he doesn't care about meat people, to use a pesk term. He just wants to create more Goa, and so if he had the information, he would go just give people the tainted drug to turn them into Goa. So it's a lot. We also see Pinball and Oshin talking back at his tower. And at the...
I think this was the episode where his tower was locked. So...
Is it? Oh, that's right. Yeah. I misread that. Okay, so Oshin went to talk to Pinball, but his tower was locked, so we all started getting a little worried. Because we also couldn't find Mo. And then as everyone's leaving the tea garden, Tybalt arrives and tries to talk with Saldana about not being the only suitor and all that kind of stuff. And then they pass the old house of the king. That's not that important. At the tower, the group unlocked the door and went in, and they were trying still to find Pinball because everyone was a little concerned that something may have happened to him since Mo's not even there. So we have absolutely no information. And, oh, that's right. I forgot about that. There's a spell on the house. So when they break in, everyone had to make wisdom saves. A couple people got scared and actually ran off and had to be brought back. Luckily, one of them was Saldana. So since we were in the Pearl District, she was able to kind of talk her way out of things with the guards. Well, luckily. And they were escorted to Nathan's house, and then they were able to leave pretty quickly after that and get to the tower again. Okay, back at the tower, everyone got in. They were trying to find a way to get to Pinball or figure out what was happening. They also discovered that roughly a third of Pinball's possessions were missing, but it looked very specific. It didn't look like someone had just come in and taken stuff. And then GB found a permanent teleportation circle in the basement, and only he could see it. So the group figured out how to use that when they heard Patsy shuffling around downstairs. He was there to get more stuff and take it back with him, and they got him a little drunk and tricked him, and they were able to jump through the portal when Patsy was showing them how, and eventually found out that Pinball had created a floating keep above the city. So that's where he was, and that's why all his stuff was missing. He also had used air shale as part of the way he made it float. So he apologized to Syl and told her that he felt really bad about that. But when he used it, he didn't know that that was what Goa were made of, and he didn't know that it could potentially become a sentient being. So he feels horrible, but there's not a lot he can do about it now because it's already been transmuted. Saldana then and everyone else went home. However, Saldana in particular had an interesting situation. She thought she was going to be having dinner with a couple of suitors, and in actuality ended up having dinner with just her mother. And her mother revealed that Saldana was now betrothed to marry the king.
Dun dun dun.
Yes, big deal. And terrifying. However, she didn't tell everyone right away. So even though it happened in session, she didn't write it in the book. So people didn't find out till a little bit later. Okay. So Jay, if you want to tackle session 18.
Yeah, I can try. I'm going to open up my phone real quick because I had it open on my computer.
No worries. Do you want to find it and then one of us can read the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. So Tessa, do you want to go?
Yeah, let me scroll back up because I had session 19 ready to go. So let me pull it back up. Session 18. Here we go. So, Rosie showed up at the Pearl Estate to invite Nathan to tea. There was a little bit of awkwardness, but it was very nice. Primeheart, unfortunately, was having nightmares and woke up with a cold sweat, having seen the visions of the riots in his dreams. Owen reads about Syl and Goa in the journal and asks Holly to get a message to him if any of the new Goa come back to the clinic. And the party slowly trickles into the tea garden and are offered the private room by Kurt Bramblenut, which is hilarious because the letters at the end is what the hell? And it's because Kurt, the world's tallest halfling, was giving all of the short jokes all of the time. It was amazing. Owen broaches the topic of putting resources and allies that the party has gathered to use, and he proposes that maybe the anniversary of the riots is the day that we do something. And as they're talking about it, Zreet end up landing on the balcony and talking to the party and asks if they're feeling a little bit restless and shares information that the king will be leaving the castle on the 17th and that she has a job for them all. She produces the 2 shocker discs that Aldian had used to take out temporarily one of the Nocturne and assigns to the group the task of trying to capture one or at least knocking one out completely. They make a plan and agree to it, and agree that Mari and Rosie, both having the devices, stood the best chance of planting them and activating them. This was not the case. At all. As they left the tea house, Pip set out to prepare for the evening's work. He takes some fish crackers and starts talking to alley cats in the areas around where the Nocturnes are slated to be patrolling, and manages to convince several of them to assist in providing a distraction. Meanwhile, the rest of the party heads to the Brell estate, and Preston is on site entertaining a woman who Nathan has not met. The woman's name is Duchess Violent. Violent? Is it Violent or Violent? I'm not entirely sure.
I think it's Violent or something like that.
Yes. But she is Duchess Lockridge and is introduced, and Preston has claimed that Nathan has met her previously, although he was very, very young. She is a beautiful woman of considerable grace and poise. And she is in town to assist her nephew with the loss of his family and estate. And she and Preston are in the midst of making arrangements that both families would find beneficial for stability and support. She brings up the potential of arranging a marriage, and lets it slip that Saldana has been promised to an unknown suitor, and therefore will no longer be able to marry Tybalt. Nathan didn't know that Saldana was engaged, and the Duchess states that their families can both benefit by way of arranging Nathan and Tybalt's marriage. Nathan asks about the Lockridge family's business, which the Duchess kind of waves off, and then hugs Nathan and kind of gets a little teared up, saying how much she misses the family and is eager for a chance for them to merge and be involved with one another again. Back in the library, Nathan tells everybody about his impending engagement, and Owen tells Nathan they're about to change the playing field, and who is noble or not may change by the time that everything comes to pass. Rosie sings a beautiful song that she's been working on to inspire everybody, and the group reconvenes and solidifies the battle plan for taking down the Nocturne. They go into the alley to wait, and things seem to be going wrong immediately, as the Nocturne appears in the center of the alley, only to disappear again a moment later. And it appears that the Nocturne is invisible. And a second Nocturne appears, and the discs are being passed from person to person, and unfortunately, because it is strength, it requires strength to get them attached. Mari and Rosie are not the best suited to getting these discs attached to the Nocturne. We learn that the Nocturne are not considered humanoids. There's something different about them. And finally, after Pip barely manages to... sorry, my brain took a vacation halfway through that sentence, so I apologize, and I'll try it again. Pip barely manages to get the disc on the first Nocturne and takes the second disc and goes after the other. And the party manages to beat down that Nocturne and check on the inside of it, and it's goopy inside. There's a skull inside, and it looks like there is clockwork in the torso, meaning that the Nocturne is not just machinery, it's people too. The second Nocturne continues to attack Pip, and it takes a few minutes, but Rosie is also able to find a rune and a puzzle code inside the helmet. But just as things seem to be going worse, a giant wolf shows up on the scene, and a few minutes later, the king himself is standing there facing down the party. They manage to get away, but Nathan and the king lock eyes for a few moments. And Nathan miraculously manages to turn and walk away as if nothing happened at all. Reed meets with them and commends them, and they begin to look over the runes puzzling inside the helmet.
Yep, which we did as a whole, as a group altogether, eventually figure out. But that led us into the open RP sessions, which there wasn't a whole lot that happened that was largely important to the plot. The basic summary of that, in terms of anything you guys need to know, is that the goblins did provide the group with a few different ways to hide some weapons, including a shield that you can hide a sword inside and things like that. And also that Seldana ended up having to tell Oshin, Pesk, and Primeheart about her impending nuptials, which she wasn't super excited about, but it happened. Yep. And that takes us into session 19.
So, yeah, over that time we had figured out what the riddle, the solution was. It wasn't written in the notes for some reason, but we figured out what it was. Finku had been working on something for Tira, and think this is when he finished it, or he was getting close to finishing it. He spoke with her about working at the King's Manor, because whenever they had all run away from Pimble's Tower, he ran with Seldana, and they ran into Jashra on their way back, and she said that they need a tinkerer over there to set up for a wedding. Syl attempts to use one of the spell scrolls that she had gotten from Pimble a few days before, and succeeds and sends the message, "Mother, a sickness has infected the transmuted air shell I discovered. I may be sick and contagious. I need guidance. Is there a means of teleportation home?" And her mother responded, "Worry not, we cannot be diseased. Tell me specifically what is wrong. I will work on getting you home." Everybody decides to meet at the Nesting Waffle, which is a place we discovered during the open RPs that sells gigantic fancy waffles. And they decide to meet there instead of at the Beer Forge because of everything that's going on. It's full of loud, rowdy people. And I think by this time we knew Ivy was out of town anyway, so we just didn't. And they have lunch there, and they go by Seldana's apartment, or I think it's supposed to be an apartment, to change, so she can change, because at this point she had been changing to disguise herself on her way out when she left the Pearl District. They stopped so she could change so they can go to Pimple's, which is in the Pearl District. And Pesk suggests talking to him about her problem, that is being engaged to the king. And on their way there, they pass Mo coming out of, I don't know if it's out of the Pearl District or if he was just heading away, but he was heading away with divining rods, attempting to locate the stuff that made Syl's feet itchy. Finku tries to use them and does not do a good job, basically immediately messes it up. And Mo takes him back and heads off in the direction of the Temple District, and everybody follows. Finku notices a shop in the Temple District that has it has a sign that is an anvil, which looks like it has a keyhole through it, and Pip realizes that this is something referenced in the puzzle. It may be the locked forge that the puzzle within the Nocturne's helmet had mentioned. And Finku opens the door, but he sets off a trap, but he opens the door, and they go inside and they look around, and it looks like it had been a tinkerer's shop, but most of it had, the tools had been taken somewhere else, taken out. And they continue to search. Mari, who previously had done something with her hair where she had cut it and cast a spell using it as the component, now begins to hear a voice talking to her that says, "You're stronger alone," to her. She doesn't say anything about this to anybody else. Nobody else hears this voice, just Mari. Finku opens the door to head downstairs, and they enter a room with a dirt floor and stone, and there's an enormous wall with a big door that has a bunch of locks. And Finku starts looking over them and doesn't really think that he can get all of them. Pesk uses detect traps, discovers the entire door is a trap, and Pip begins to dig down into the dirt and hits 6 inches of solid ice. And as everybody starts to dig and help Pip, Mari hears the voice again, which says, "You have to be the first." They continue digging, and Mari uses her hair again to cast another spell and determined that attempting to open the door would be attempting to open the locks on the door would be bad. They group digging finds a door which they open, and they all drop down into some sort of puzzle room with statues that are 2 look evil and 2 look angelic, and they start looking around, and they are told whenever they start to move some of the things around, they're told basically it was a puzzle. They had to move things around and figure out where things go, and it kept recreating pieces, but eventually they figure out what they're supposed to be doing, and they get everything solved, and a rune at the center of the floor opens up, and a creature is revealed with ice like pillars for arms. It's covered in fur. It looks like it's made of wood and metal, and it steps forward and speaks to everybody, saying that its name is Trey. And yeah, I think it's mentioned at the end of this one it's mentioned between here and then that they move it to Pinball's tower to hide it. And that was session 19.
Yeah, I think it might have been between that episode and the next one where they stated it, but I'm not sure.
I don't remember hearing it at some point, but it was said at some point. But that's what they did with it. And when it was there, it shut down.
All right. Heather, do you want to take session 20? And I'll take 21?
Sure. Sounds good. So session 20 started rumors of Daydream running rampant through the city. It's now been discovered by most people that the green version of Daydream, which is the original one, seems to be safe, but it's becoming harder and harder to find. More and more people are only able to find the red one, and with the red one, you run the risk of death. And unfortunately, those people that have become addicted to it already are turning to the red one because they need to have it. Saldana is woken up by her mother because she's going to be having a fitting that day. Her mother hired a seamstress. Saldana, of course, was planning to meet up with everyone else at the tea garden. And in order to prevent her daughter from trying to run off and possibly to keep her daughter occupied in the house, I'm not sure, Jastra sends Stokes, her bugbear butler, to come get all of us. So at the tea garden, Pip, Rosie, Mari, Owen, and Soxy have all met up, and Jastra Butler Stokes picks us all up in a carriage and takes us to Saldana's estate. When we get there, Jastra meets us downstairs. She's a little disappointed that Lark isn't there. And She also gives Mari a very strange look, almost like she knows Mari from somewhere, but Mari has no idea what's happening with that. And we all went up. So all of the female characters, so Soxy, Mari, and Pesk all went up. Excuse me, Rosie all went up and saw Saldana and kind of saw her struggling to try to figure out dresses and not looking overly happy. Whereas Pip and Owen stayed downstairs and they played Go Fish with Stokes. Along the way, somehow Rosie is able to convince Jastra to let us leave with Saldana, saying something about Saldana wanting to pick out her own dress and wanting to go look around the city, that kind of thing. And Rosie admits that she's been at a couple of weddings and has performed at them. So Jastra decides to just hand over the reins to Rosie because she's tired of dealing with the wedding planning. So Rosie becomes the wedding planner for Saldana and the king's wedding. Oh, and I forgot to mention it earlier, but by this point, we're a couple of days before the wedding, and the king has had people put a ton of banners all over the city, and there's town criers talking about the king getting married on the 17th to a powerful family to strengthen the city. And all of the carriages and the nocturne and all the official stuff in the city has banners everywhere that have his colors with sort of a silhouette of him on them. And then there's other banners that are the same blue as Saldana's skin and have a silhouette of her face on those ones. So by the time we get to her house, the group already knows that Saldana is engaged to the king. And there's a lot of discussion of what we're going to do, how we're going to try to get her out of it, and all that sort of situation. We decide to go talk to Pinbull to see if he has any recommendations, because at this point, none of our group really is involved in political intrigue or anything like that. So we're hoping that Pinbull might be able to give us some tips. And along the way, we run into this mob that's attacking someone. It turns out they've got a Braith cornered. Now, the Braith, we have a player who's playing a Braith, but he had to take a break for family and personal reasons. And so until he comes back, this is actually the first Braith we've really had much interaction with. They are a race of beings that we created for our homebrew here at Countless Heroes. And they are sort of descendants of... I just forgot the word. Aberrations?
Yep.
Yes, they are descendants of aberrations who were stuck in our world and ended up crossbreeding with humans and possibly some other races. So they're somewhat humanoid, somewhat aberrant. This particular Braith is dressed in very monkly attire and has a long Fu Manchu tentacle mustache. He is being attacked by the group, and it turns out that he had made some comments about people being blind to the truth about what's happening in the city. They're focusing on the revelry regarding the fact that the king's getting married and not paying attention to the reality of all of the horribleness that is happening. And the drunken mob that's attacking him didn't care for that. But between some magic and a few well-placed attacks, the group is able to get the mob to disperse and go away. And the Braith agreed to meet up with the group later. After that, we did make it to Pinbull's Tower, and the short version of the discussion at Pinbull's Tower is that he feels Saldana should marry the king because she would then have a lot of power and have a chance to do a lot of good. And the party, while they fully understand where he's coming from, are not overly happy with that being his recommendation. And most of them leave not necessarily angrily, but disappointed because they were hoping that he would be more anti the whole situation and possibly be more helpful. No one can deny the fact that his logic is there, but they don't have to like it.
They're descended from Illithids, specifically.
Yes, I wasn't sure if we were revealing that or not, so I hadn't said it.
Sorry.
I just lost my place. The other thing that happened is that Mo revealed that he is living at the tower by himself now. The tower's his, and then Pinball is living up in the flying keep above the city. After all of that, we decided that we needed a break that was happy, so the group went to a sweet shop and then to the tea garden to meet the Braith. He revealed that his name is Eris, and he is a monk, and he's a follower of truth. He doesn't really care about empathy or anything like that. He's all about honesty and truth, and that's what matters to him. And long story short, he does agree that he doesn't care for all of the king's policies and is potentially an ally when our two paths intersect or meet. And beyond that, he's going to be staying at Sildana's apartment since she now doesn't have to use it very much. As we're leaving, Sildana notices that her mother is in another part of the tea garden, so in order to avoid having to go near her, Soxy flies her across the little river space right there. And when we land, she sees through a window that Jastra is sitting with Tybalt and Afra. And none of us know exactly what's going on there.
All right, session 21. So Mo had mentioned that he was feeling a little bit lonely now that he has the tower all to himself. So Pask spent the night as a sleepover, just trying to make sure that Mo feels a little bit more comfortable. Lark shows up the next morning and declares that he's moving in with Mo to keep him from feeling any sort of discomfort, but neglected to ask Mo if he wanted a roommate. But Mo does agree to the roommate situation on a trial basis. He reveals that he was rescued by Pinball from some quote-unquote not nice folks, and the rest of the group, with minus Mari, show up to see Pinball, specifically because Syl's feet are still itching. Pesk decides to go leave to find Mari to decorate the house with flowers because everyone should feel happy, and everyone else heads upstairs. They find Pinball in his lab with a row of Daydream in different vials, varying in color from green all the way to red, and he looks beat. He has been studying and working probably much harder and longer than he should be, and does need a rest at some point. He is very concerned about Syl's feet and inspects them, and then scrubs her feet in water, which seems to remove a lot of the corrupted air shale, but does leave Syl a little bit shorter than she was. He seems very sad, and Oshin, while asking for some more transportation powder, does try to reassure him that everything is okay, and also says, take a break. Syl notices the drawers from the abandoned temple district where first the others were staying, and Mo had retrieved it for Pinball. Pinball said he's going to consult more with an old colleague, and he will send for her shortly. Back on Barrel Run, Mari is selling sunflowers, and Jastra comes and buys them all and invites her for tea at the tea garden. And Jastra reveals that she and Mari share a common lineage as Nicosta, and using Zone of Truth, prized the name of Xyler from Mari as the person who stabbed Sildana. Jastra reveals that she knows all about Sildana's apartment, her secret temple in the hidden temple district, and is actually rather impressed by Mari's firm beliefs that even under the Zone of Truth is refusing to give information. She stands by her convictions, which impresses Jastra a lot. Shortly after, Pask and Soxy see Mari as she's leaving, and they decide to all go to Pinball's together. Mo has vacated the tower by the time they all get there, as it is his market day, and Lark decides to go out hunting for him, only to see Afra walking towards the tower with some great intent. Then slams the door in her face. But
I forgot about that.
Pesk manages to get Afra inside while Oshin goes and gets Pinball, who is completely asleep, face down on his work desk up above. He comes downstairs, and he and Afra go upstairs so we don't, quote-unquote, hear her yelling at me. And after a bit of hushed conversation, we see them come back downstairs, and a convo is had about Trey, which Afra is furious about, and she leaves running out the door, and Pest goes after her. Pinball explains that he is the R in Victor. Afra is the V, and Trey is the precursor to the Nocturne. Tyrell and Kenrick Lockridge are the other members, along with a few unnamed interns and the Keymaster. Oshin and Soxy reveal their involvement with the Nocturne, and the fact that because of their cell experience and whatever was done to create these Nocturne may have been tried on Oshin and Soxy, and neither one of them can remember anything prior to the beginning of the campaign. They have one shared memory, and that's it. But they're the lucky two, because there are so many people who were in cells that were also potentially experimented on that are mostly catatonic and can't do anything for themselves. Outside, Afra and Pesk talk, and Pesk says to Afra that she doesn't really trust anybody anymore outside of her friends, once Afra had told her that she didn't have friends because you couldn't trust anyone. And Afra seemed saddened that she'd caused that change in Pesk, and encouraged Pesk not to lose her trust in good nature, but warned her that Trey should not be let near any Nocturne. Pimble explains that as much as he can about Victor and the incidences of the creation of the Nocturne, but he is under the effects of a gas. And through their discussion, the party come to the conclusion that Imelda is probably the central brain for all of the Nocturne, which would explain Tyrell's anger and upsetness with the situation. Then, sensing there might be a connection between Oshin and Soxy and Trey, the two link hands with Trey and trying to get him to respond. He starts to shift slightly, but not before there's a large crashing sound from outside the room, and Mo runs in saying they're here. The party, Pinball, and Mo all stay in the room hiding with Trey until morning, and then when they finally emerge, Pinball's tower has been reduced to rubble. From the Nocturne.
Yep. That was pleasant for Soxy and Oshin to find out.
Yeah, real
they're linked to the Nocturne in some way, shape, or form. One thing that didn't make it into our notes here, but that is important, well, it's somewhat important, is that Pinball also told us that any of the people that escaped, like Soxy and Oshin, who are more catatonic, might partly be that way because they're still in some way connected to the central brain, which means they're a potential information leak for any of the resistance cells. So Soxy made sure to tell Zreet.
Yes. I had something to add, and I just completely forgot what it was.
Sorry.
It wasn't anything important, but all right.
Okay, session 22.
So, all right, session 22. Pesk and Primeheart go into town to help with the rubble. That morning, a lot of the people from the Divine Foundry, the right name, a bunch of them had gone over to help with the rubble from the tower, and Pesk and Primeheart go to join them, and Pip also joins them eventually. He starts to help and then runs off to the beer forge because he heard while trying to find rumors that there's a sale on egg tubes, and comes back with egg tubes, but Pip is helping them as well.
Egg tubes are serious business.
Yeah, real serious.
It's a big deal.
Nathan goes to the tea garden because he was not happy about Solana being engaged. Mari goes to the Erasmus estate to try to have breakfast with Saldana. But whenever she gets there, she finds out Saldana's not home, but Jastra is and wants to speak with her. Mari tells her basically she can't stay, and Jastra offers her help by saying, if you need anything, talk to me. Owen meets Nathan at the tea garden, and they talk. And Nathan says he doesn't have any intention on the wedding, letting the wedding happen. And Owen says that they need to check in with Zreet to find out what the plan is regarding the wedding, because if I remember right, this is the day before the wedding. So
I think so, yeah.
No plans have been made. No one had any. Yeah, because the day before we had discussed, basically, no one felt like they could do anything because it was too close. Yes, so yeah, Owen says that they need to check in to see what they're going to be doing, and says that with what happened with Pinball the day before, he's not inclined to trust people outside of the party, because Owen kept having run-ins with Pinball.
For lack of a better term.
Multiple times. This is like that was the second one, I think.
They had, I don't know that there's gonna be
no.
Owen, there's no love lost there.
No, there's no Pinball Owen shipping anymore.
No. Owen doesn't trust him. Is the base of that. Nathan laments being detrimental in combat, and Owen asks where he gets his magic from, and Nathan doesn't answer. They talk. Nathan talks a lot about things. He says if he tells Owen not to tell Mari, and Owen says if he doesn't feel like telling anyone, he doesn't have to. And Owen notices that Nathan had been drawing sunflowers, and Nathan notices a diagram in Owen's notebook. Says he's been exploring options. I have no idea what that means, but I feel like that might be important. Mari arrives. She looks tired, as she's wearing the same clothes as the day before. Her hair is the same as before because she was one of the people stuck in the room all night. They talk about her meeting with Jastra and decide to check in on the group helping with the rubble, as well as check in with Zreet, and then see Eris after that. They talk about I think Mari passes on that Pinball looks really bad, and then they talk about, all three of them talk about his neutrality, and I think the general thing on that was basically they felt bad for walking out, but they don't regret walking out. Basically that.
Yeah, something to that effect.
Yeah, and they run into Pip on the way back, who's returning with the egg tubes to pass them out to the people working with the rubble, because he wanted to help by bringing them lunch.
Many egg tubes.
A crate of egg tubes, like 48, something like that. Obscene.
Gross of egg tubes.
More than one egg tube is an obscene amount, but it was an obscene amount. They return to meet the people that were the big rubble, and Pesk looks very upset about it. Egg tubes and the fishy crackers that Pip also got are dispensed partly into the sky. Primeheart gives Nathan some black orchids, and Nathan is kind of surprised that Primeheart knew his favorite flower. Owen gets everyone together, and they decide to go to see Zreet to ask what the plan is for the next day. They go to the temple district, and everyone discusses what had happened the previous couple days, I guess, because a lot had happened. They talk to Zreet. Pesk is suspicious. They find out she's got a necklace with some magic, but she doesn't explain it. She is dodgy. Owen figures out that she's more annoyed. And she tells them that she wants them to retrieve something from someplace smelly. And Tira was supposed to tell everybody about the job, but didn't, apparently. So they go to wrap up everything else before meeting back up with her. They talk to Eris. Eris tells them, actually explains that he's been trained as a monk at this point, and Pip tries to teach him the friendship dance, and they leave. They meet back up with Zreet, who tells them they're going to go into the sewers to find some sort of blob. Then the acid is needed for something that they're going to be doing. And they go into the sewers, collect weapons and equipment, and they explore the sewers for a while. Mari tries to reach out to the voice in her head and doesn't get any response. They fight a swarm of rats because someone opened something, and they eventually find the oozes that they were looking for. They fight it. Oh, and it goes down pretty quick, but they get it back up, and they cut it down. They collect the samples in special colored glass jars that they were told to collect it in because the ooze eats through basically everything else. And Pip collects an extra sample for himself in a clear glass vial. So we don't know. That probably isn't going to end well, but he does it. And they meet up with Zreet, who congratulates them, tells them they have a big day, and that everyone will have roles to play, involving disguises and letters of passage into certain areas of the wedding.
And that takes us to the wedding day. So this is the big one. This is where a lot of stuff happened. So session 23, the 17th of Trelaris, we start off, of course, that morning they're preparing for the wedding. Everyone's getting ready. Seldana's getting dressed. Rosie has been tapped as the maid of honor. Syl is the flower girl, and GB is the ring bearer. So they're all there getting ready with Seldana. Jastra, for once, shows some empathy towards her daughter's situation and ends up giving her some pearl earrings that are family heirloom type situation. And it's one of those moments where, like, you realize, okay, Jastra is not the best of people, but she does at least have some love for her daughter, even if it's buried beneath many layers of intrigue, drama, and self-preservation. Other people are getting ready for the wedding. Nathan gets handed some clothes that Tybalt picked out for him, which irritates him to no end. The wedding itself happens at the Reynard Manor, so there's hundreds of people around. There's also a lot of nocturne everywhere. The ceremony is led by Helia, who is a cleric of Shanir, which is a god of light. And we do find out later that the king is actually a devout follower of the god, and even though he doesn't let clerics generally practice throughout the city, he has had Helia coming to sort of hear his prayers or meet with him periodically for about 30 years or so. They go through with the vows, which somewhat ominously talk about giving one's souls to one's partner, which the group in general is a little sketchy on. And they're announced as the king and queen. At this point, someone stands up in the crowd and starts singing an old resistance song. They get as far as the first line, "We rode after midnight to safe keep our town," long before, and then as they're trying to finish that second line, one of the nocturne, a new one that's got silver marks on it, uses a special beam and disintegrates the wedding guest. So we now know that at least some of the new Nocturne are extra, extra dangerous and can cast Disintegrate on us, which is bad news. After the wedding, there's the reception. Everyone's talking. Some people are happy. Some people, the group included, are not. But the king offers the queen pretty much anything she wants. Offers to do anything she wants within reason. And Saldana decides that she wants the curfew lifted so that people can be out at night. And she also wants him to allow people to practice. So there's no longer a ban on worship. People can actually worship their gods and goddesses out in the open again, which is a big deal because that hadn't been that case for a long time. He also expresses to her, this is sort of a big thing, in terms of their wedding and their marriage, he's really only requiring a couple things of her. One of them is that she has to have dinner with him at the castle 3 days a week. And that's honestly the biggest one. She has to be there for, the necessary events and whatnot also, but that was kind of expected. And he gives her Reynard Manor as a home, but she's going to have some Nocturne protecting her, and she has to pick a handmaiden. Everyone is shown around the castle, or Saldana is shown around the castle and is shown to a private room that's hers. There's dancing and music, and a human girl named Javea comes up to Saldana to present her with the king's decrees, so the written out versions of what he promised her at the wedding, and also asks if she can be Saldana's handmaiden or lady in waiting, and Saldana agrees. And then during the party, near the exact moment that the Leviathan first attacked 17 years before, there's this huge impact that just smashes into the castle walls. And we see out the windows a group of people on ships firing cannons at the castle. And Aldion is at the top of the mast on one of the ships, leading a chorus of men singing the resistance song from years before, while Zreet flies over the castle past the sun. And
I still have goosebumps over that.
Yes, great imagery. And with that, I think we have to poke Logan to play the song for us because it's amazing and you guys should hear it.
It was written by Will Crosswaite with influence from Logan.
We rode after midnight to safe keep our town. Long before these flowering fields turned to brown. Now we quake in our homesteads, afeard of the dark. Ever since the wolves started tending the flock. We sailed through the summers on plentiful food. Now winter has carved through the cracks in our roof. If ever a man were to stand up and try, Leviathan sway him to lay down and die. Light, shine down a light, bring us a new dawn. The age of heroes is broken, the age of man stumbles on. The miracle's rays could have lifted us all. Now grey walls been raised for what precedes the fall. Once we would rise up, once we would pray, but leaders and readers have all fallen away. measured man stumbles on. The miracle's rays could have lifted us up. Now grey walls been raised for what precedes the fall. Once we would rise up, once we would pray. But leaders and raiders have all fallen away.
I love that so much.
Yeah, it came out so good.
Much. All right, session 24. You guys were doing so good. Session 24, the same day as the wedding. We had to break this kind of whole day into 2 sessions, given the amount of things that were happening behind the scenes. So while things were happening up above, Pesk, Finku, Lark, and Primeheart are working behind the scenes to place weapons around the castle for the interior resistance, if you will. And they'll plan to meet up with Syl and GB later. As they are working around and trying to be sneaky, everyone but Finku, the rogue, is caught. Surprise, surprise. But we managed to knock out some guard and get out of it. Lark is also discovered by a 15-year-old girl named Javea before the ceremony, and he, in Lark's beautifully sweet, wonderful way, asks if she's a member of the Resistance. And after some back and forth discussing the Queen and her desire to be a handmaiden, he reveals quite a bit about the Resistance and urges her to become the Queen's handmaiden, which was already what she wanted. So that was adorable, sweet, and terrifying all at the same time.
Yes.
After everybody had placed their weapons, GB and Syl met up with the group to head into the crypt. We were told we needed to find and assassinate someone known as the Keeper. As we go through the hidden door at the end of the crypt, we accidentally touch a door which awakens some bones in which we have to deal with before we go further. The group has 2 sets of instructions, and therefore they need to split into 2 to make sure that we can lock 3 very specific doors before we reach the Keeper. We follow the instructions, but Pesk, Clark, and Finku, being a little bit unsure of where they're going, do end up having to double back after being attacked by a tentacle monster. But we enter a room with cages and some bat-like creatures, and we have a rather difficult fight with Pesk, unfortunately, having to do a lot of the damage herself, and ends up, crushing a man monster with her thighs underwater because she can hold her breath for a very long time while she holds onto the grating above to keep herself submerged. But they finally get through and meet at the last room, ready for the rest of the party. On their way there, though, they do find several imprisoned individuals, and they promise that they will release them upon their return. The second group also follow their directions. They have a small encounter with some more bat creatures and clear the room as well. And finally, they all meet up at the very end, ready to take on the Keeper. We all do a little bit of healing, enter the room, and the Keeper summons a water elemental to deal with us all while he escapes. But since we'd done our due diligence and all 3 of his escape routes were blocked and locked, we end up defeating him rather quickly. We work our way back through the castle, making sure that all of the other prisoners are let out. And unfortunately, it means we have to deal with that tentacle monster, and Finku receives a very bad lash on his arm, causing it to look like it is tentacled well. But we do manage to get out all of the prisoners.
Okay, so that takes us to session 25. Jay, are you ready?
So
Cool.
session 25 started with a little bit of an epilogue to the wedding, which mentioned that Saldana and the king left the castle via teleportation whenever the cannon started, and everyone else that was part of the group got out other ways, but these two were teleported to be safe. They stayed away from the city for a full day, and they're taken somewhere with, I think it was no doors and no windows. After this is Saldana's first dinner with the king, where he requested to have 3 nights a week. And Juvea tells Saldana, "Your secret is safe with me," referring to the resistance, which Lark flat out told her that he was part of and Saldana was part of, and asked her if she wanted to join. During the dinner, Saldana asks for she asks, what was it? Essentially, her request ends with the slums that Owen's clinic is located within being named an actual district within the city, which they had not been before, which they called the Dawn District, which she named for the resistance. And Owen's clinic is sent help. And the king tells her that they should talk about what they thought and they should listen to each other during these meetings. And he agrees to help the clinic, and he says that he hopes that the dinners will become better in the future. And Saldana leaves to return home. The 20th of Trularis, which is the day of the actual session, Owen finds 6 wagons of supplies outside of his clinic and a decree about the district and a small box full of healing scrolls. There is a decree about turning the clinic into a full hospital for the district and plans for the building. And a letter from the king is also delivered to Saldana about this. At the Greaser Union, the Tenku is treated to a pastry and milk by Tira, and he tells her about. She thanks him for his work, and he shows her the tentacle mark that is impeding his motor skills a little bit. Nathan talks to his uncle about speeding. About his uncle talks to Nathan about speeding up the arrangement between him and Tybalt, and asks him to transfer businesses over to Tybalt's family. After they finish talking, Rosie and Nathan talk about him not being ready to run the business. Syl has started soaking her feet every morning and scrubbing them as she does that, and she goes and talks to whatever, who gets her another poem, which had been prophetic before. We have no idea what this one will refer to, but we'll see. Nathan goes to visit Owen and shows him marks on his skin that have been appearing every year on the anniversary of the Leviathan attacks, and tells Nathan that about his warlock abilities, and says that he came to him because they're friends, and essentially it's Saldana tries to leave her manor without Juvea following, but she insists on following because she is Saldana's handmaiden, and Saldana attempts to cast suggestion on her to keep her there, but it doesn't work, and Juvea knows what Saldana tries to do, so she becomes very upset and leaves Saldana alone. Everybody else converges at the beer forge, and when Saldana comes in, Ivy, who has returned, loudly announces her presence as the queen. Saldana does not like that. Nivy apologizes. Finku and Nathan meet each other for the first time because they had not met each other before then.
Yeah, and Owen and Syl met for the first time also.
Owen, yeah. Yes. And that's pretty much everybody is finally, I think that's about, like, those were a couple of the last pairs that needed to meet.
Yeah, I think some of the only people that still hadn't met are, oh god, I just forgot his name. Yoth. Yoth hasn't met everyone yet, and neither has Lanik. Because
Yoth, Yoth met a few of us, and Lanik, I think, met a few more. But aside from that, I think that was the last of everybody meeting each other, which took a while, but it finally happened. They have lunch. Rosie steals all of Finku's money. Nathan notices someone watching him, and he goes to investigate it, and then notices the person outside the door, and he takes off without a word, and everybody follows Nathan, who catches up with what appears to be a woman who nobody else sees, and she doesn't say anything, but she eventually says, "You no longer want my gifts," and nobody else can hear this. She calls herself the Vessel, and tells him that's what she's supposed to be called. Nathan's told not to take his gifts for granted again, and she taps him on the forehead and expends all of his spell slots for the day. And he explains that was his patron to the rest of the group. Saldana talks about her situation with Javea, too many J names around Saldana, and they, Owen suggests if she ends up saying anything about the resistance, just letting her take the fall, because she is a handmaid. Saldana is the queen. Who are they going to listen to? Saldana says she's not sure that she can do that to her. And they go to try to read up about the Vessel and Pimble's library, because if there's anywhere they can find information, it would be there. On their way to find a grate, they hear a crashing, and they see Nocturne confronting two people who had swords hidden in their carriage, which had fallen over, not because it crashed or anything, but because a wheel was taken off of it somehow. Saldana uses her ability as queen, commands them to stop and leave the people alone. And it does. It leaves. They notice who had crashed the cart was a small frog person, a grunt, who eventually catches and forces off the roof of the building with him. And they talk to him, and he didn't really have any bad intentions with this. He just did it to do it. He likes to dance. He's in town to dance. And he doesn't understand much about what's going on. They find out he's from Laminate Island. And he eventually leaves, and they tell him don't cause any trouble for anyone else. Saldana returns home to Javea, who's still really distant about everything. And Nathan returns home with Rosie, and Nathan goes to talk with his uncle, who gives him control again, and returns home. And it tells him that he's going to return home, and he'll be leaving the next morning. And that's where that one had ended. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yep.
Session 27. We're getting close to the fun part of the shipping.
Wait, aren't we on 26?
It's 26, yeah.
Oh, or I could just completely skip the one that I thought.
I can do 26. I have it geared up if you want to do 27.
You do 26, because I was on 27 for some reason.
Okay. So For session 26, we started off with another sort of epilogue style where we see the night before, the night of Trillaris 20, Saldana and the king are dining together. It's a more simple meal, and they're talking more about what to do, and he's basically, at all of these, he's asking her, like, what is something you'd like me to do, kind of thing. He's trying to get on her good side. And Saldana says that what she'd like to do as her next request is have him improve the guard so that they're a real formal guard and not just volunteers anymore. And the king asks if more Nocturne would help, which Saldana points out that no one likes the Nocturne and they have no empathy, so that's probably not a good idea. So he agrees to do so, and there's two conditions. One is that Saldana has to find someone to oversee the operations of this new city guard project, and the other is that at their next meeting, her request has to be a selfish one and not something that's for other people. So she agrees, and the next morning, we see the group going through their morning routines. Mari sells her flowers, Oshin visits Trey, and this time is actually able to connect to him a little bit, but not, they don't get a whole lot of information, but a little bit. Pesk went to see Saldana to take her to the beer forge and finds out about the tension between Javea and Saldana and tries to act as sort of an intermediary to get things going in the right direction again. At the beer forge, it's a fairly mellow day, and everyone's sitting around chit-chatting about what to do next and things like that. And Saldana asks everyone to help her find someone to keep the guard organized. So Mari reveals that her roommate and sort of best friend outside of the group is a woman named Haley, who's part of the Barrel Run Guard. So they decide to go talk to her and see if she has any suggestions. And as they're getting ready to do this, Steros, the tax collector, shows up to demand money from Ivy. It's not technically the usual time when he comes to get it, but as long as he only gets it once a month, he's technically within his legal rights. And he knows she just had a big couple of weeks because of all of the anniversaries and the wedding and whatnot. So... Jerk. Yeah, he's a jerk. But while he's there, he makes several comments about different things, and Saldana tries to intervene. And then at that point, when she's trying to intervene and trying to basically pull her queenly cred, Steros basically just insults her and tells her to back off. He clearly either doesn't know that she's the queen or is just enough of a asshole that he doesn't care that she's the queen. We don't know for sure, but either way, he ends up saying one thing too many, and Pesk decks him, which made me very happy, and threatens him regarding his behavior. So hopefully that won't come back to bite us, but we'll see what happens. The group then went to the tea garden and met up with Haley and talked to her about different people. She agreed to get together a list of names of people in the city guard, in the different guard areas that she thinks might be good as a new head of the guard for the whole city. And as she's getting ready to pack her stuff up and leave, a couple of people in the group notice that she has a tome of transcription inside her book. So it makes everyone realize that Haley must also be a member of the Resistance, but she's in a different cell than the rest of us. After that, Haley went back to work, and Mari told everyone about her tea with Saldana's mom, Jastra, and some of the things that had occurred. Saldana's in sort of a state of shock, especially because the Nicosta supposedly are just fairy tales, so she's having trouble wrapping her brain around the fact that not only is Mari a Nicosta, but also so is her mother, which, understandably confusing. Mari does swear everyone to secrecy for obvious reasons once they're back at the Reynard estate and talking about it more. And she really pleads with Saldana to believe her, but Saldana is still dealing with the whole, how is this possible situation. Meanwhile, Javea is acting very professional, but very distant and not her usual bubbly, friendly self, which, of course, is noticeable. So Pesk continues trying to talk to Javea and talk to Saldana. And eventually Saldana does go and apologize to Javea and, explains that she was worried for Javea's safety if she had come with Saldana, as well as the fact that she's worried about, everyone else's safety if something gets found out. Javea reveals that she has been training to be a handmaiden for years and that she is something called a handmaiden of the cord and has sworn an oath to always be by Saldana's side. None of us know exactly what that means. We're assuming it means she's part of some sort of secret society of handmaidens that double as bodyguards, but we don't actually know that. We just are kind of assuming. Javea ends up going out for the night and is in much better spirits, and Swazi has shown up and is kind of riding and playing with the Nocturne because he so doesn't get that they're dangerous. And he ends up hanging out with everyone for a little while before running over to the Brell estate to try to find Rosie to do some dancing with her. So Pesk and O'Sheen spend the night at Reynard Manor, and they have basically a sleepover with Saldana to keep her company. Mari heads home because she needs to have a talk with Haley about the whole situation. They're super excited when they find out that they're both in the Resistance because they're even more on the same page than they thought they were. But it also means they can't tell each other a whole lot because they're in two different cells and no two cells are supposed to know what the other one is doing. Just like you would expect in most Resistance groups. And that takes us into session 27.
So after all of the supplies were delivered to the clinic, Owen has a talk with Holly saying that he would like her to take over the clinic and that he wants to go, quote unquote, wherever he is needed, specifically thinking about working on becoming part of the volunteer militia for the Dawn District. Nathan and Rosie spend the day cleaning out rooms, and Swazi comes over to meet with Rosie and talk about dancing in her act. And he teaches her the dance with the lift at the very end of Dirty Dancing, which makes me very, very happy. Pesk wakes up after the sleepover with Saldana and chats with Javea. Talks about how Javea is feeling, trying to make sure that she's okay, and Pesk extends an invitation to her to join them at the beer fort if she ever wants to. Fingu, upon discovering that his money pouch is still missing, goes to Owen's clinic trying to borrow some money, and they have a chat about Owen stepping down from running the clinic as they walk to the beer forge. Mari is trying to sell all of her flowers, and Jastra comes, purchases them all, and asks her for tea. Jastra seems a little sad and distracted with Saldana outside of the house, and they talk for a bit about hearing voices and being Nicosta. Jastra talks about aging and how that will affect Mari. Mari will live to be about twice the age of a typical human, while Jastra will live almost only a third of what an elf will normally live. So while Saldana is 100 and still has a few centuries to go, Jastra only has maybe 10 to 20 more years left of her life. And that kind of says a little bit about why she may have been feeling the way she was about Saldana getting started. They talk about having to keep things a secret, and there's a little bit of awkward small talk before Jastra ends up leaving. At the beer forge, Finko asks Ivy if she's seen his gold pouch, which she hasn't. And when Rosie and Nathan arrive, Rosie does return it finally, and then there's a bunch of hijinks as they all take turns stealing Finko's gold from him and giving it back. After a while, and it's so appropriate that this music is playing at the moment, a very large lizard folk walks into the bar named Mesralok, who approaches Ivy, does a little bit of business, and after winking at Pesk, comes over and asks Pesk out on a date, which she agrees to. Pesk goes to talk to Ivy about Mesralok and learns that he's a diplomat, and Ivy says if he starts to dance, then to let him lead. And Pesk does not understand that metaphor at all. Nathan reveals that Tybalt is moving into the Brell estate and that Nathan is now in charge of the family business. And the group choose to start wrapping up the time at the beer forge, and Haley comes in in a dress that is designed to be very nice and attractive. But it comes by and says hello. The party has some awkward small talk with Haley, and hearing that the Shepherds are playing tonight, all decide to meet up afterwards and chat.
Yeah, I do think it needs to be said before we get too far away from this little interaction what exactly it was that Mesrelok said to hit on you on Pesk, because that it has to be shared. It's just too funny not to.
Damn, girl, your tail is plumping. I like it. Jay is gonna be dead again. All I saw in chat when that happened was from Jay was, I'm wheezing.
And then about a minute later, I'm literally crying.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes. Haley, upon meeting Rosie, hears the song that Rosie wrote for Mari, and after they leave, they use fireworks to contact Zreet. I'm sorry I keep yawning. It's the talking, and then I'm like, oh, I gotta pause for oxygen because I'm trying to go quick. Zreet arrives and congratulates the group on the success in the castle, and Pesk asks Zreet about Javea and trying to get her a meeting with Zreet. And Zreet responds that they're aware of the situation, and Lark's very lucky that it worked out the way it did, and doesn't think it'll be too much of an issue to get Javea involved. Right now, the idea is to lay low, and to stay out of the light, because things are going okay right now, and the last thing we need to do is to make us look bad when things are being well done in the city, thanks to Saldana. Pesk goes to the Divine Foundry to check on things there, having not seen Afra since the Trey incident, and making sure that everything was okay. And they kind of surreptitiously talk about the wedding, but not a whole lot is said on one way or the other. And there's a little discussion about Mesrelok and Mesri, or aka Mesri as well. Rosie and Finku go off and practice stealing things so that Finku can get better. Nathan speaks to Tybalt, and after a bit of conversation, they decide to become business partners, and Nathan dissolves their engagement, much to the relief of both him and Tybalt. We find out that Tybalt's family is responsible for starting the Sub-Rosarium, and Nathan asks if Tybalt knows anything about Airshale, and he says that they have sold one small vial of Airshale to an old school friend named Tyrell. Nathan is told to keep the Sub-Rosarium under wraps, and they decide to talk more later. Owen goes off to the Chalice to go begin training in fencing. Mari heads to her garden and then heads to meet Haley at the beer forge, who is nursing a black eye after getting into a fight with another guard for messing up her hair. The two talk about their day, and Haley says that she's not sure things are going to get better. She seems distant and a little sad. She keeps looking at Mari like she's going to say something and then stopping herself. And after a few minutes, she says that she's not feeling well and she's going to go head home. And then Finku and Rosie arrive, and they have some brief chats with Ivy before the Shepherds go on and play.
Great. So, session 28 starts with GB and Lark meet up. They go fishing. They don't really catch anything because GB had jumped into the water and is splashing around. Pesk spends her morning at the forge watching the door, just in case. And she messes up a couple of things before she takes off for lunch. Oshin goes to the tower, which is being rebuilt pretty quickly. At that point, it needed like doors and windows, and it had been expanded so more people can stay there if they wanted. I think it was 3 rooms on every floor except for the top one, and there's a hallway to go up to the side, so you don't have to walk through all the rooms. But Mo's still the only one that lives there at the moment. Oshi goes out to talk to Trey again. Gets really frustrated with him because he will not react. Gets a little bit too angry. Trey picks it up and punches Oshin, who they sort of scrap a little bit with Trey trying to fight and Oshin trying to pin him down. And eventually Oshin talks Trey into not fighting, and they chat a little bit and find out that Trey had remembered everything Oshin had told him, and also remembers someone named Ashlyn, and a witch and a troll, and both of whom are dead. And they talk for a while before Oshin takes him back to his room to sort of shut down and rest while they go to lunch. Rosie and Swazi are dancing at the beer forge, and they get glitter everywhere. Pest buys everyone food and drinks, and everyone meets. They talk. They discuss that Ashlyn a little bit, and find out she's the founder of the Light Makers Guild, Lightsmith, the Divine Foundry, and they decide to go talk to Afra about that, to see what she knows. And they take the ferry. They all get on the ferry, and it lurches. A bright light comes from it, and it starts to sink. Syl looks down into the hole that's down on the ship and sees it's perfectly circular. Oshin and Rosie get on a boat, a smaller lifeboat, leaving the ferry. Most people can handle it. No one's freaking out because a lot of people in the city can swim. GB immediately dives off the ship and doggy paddles away, does not come back. A nocturne arrives on the ship and sinks into the hole. Begin to fix it and push water out of the hole to get the ship at least able to get back to the dock. And the group talks with this nocturne because they take the helmet off and have a human-looking face. And GB does turn around at this point and comes back, even though he fully intended not doing that. So, and they talk with her. GB is convinced that the attack was done by the king so that the Nocturne can come in and look good by fixing it. And he names her Amy. And they find a symbol that looks like 4 fingers swiped down and a thumb taken across of it. And they find out that this is the Mark of 5, which is a terrorist organization, according to Amy. And Lark tries to drive the boat and can't do it, but ferrymen return to actually get the boat back to the docks. On the lifeboat, Rosie notices a figure in a cloak with really fancy shoes and goes to bother the figure, who is a female gnome who has a lot of makeup on, looks really fancy, and she tells them, or doesn't say anything. She tells Rosie to leave her alone, and she does. Rosie goes back to Oshin, and they make it to shore. And the cloaked figure approaches her once they're at shore and thanks her for backing off, because if she had gotten too frustrated and jumped off the boat or made a scene, the Nocturne would have come after them and she would not be alive. So she draws the symbol with 4 fingers and then the thumb across on Rosie's hand and tells her to leave this mark if she ever needs help. They arrive at the Divine Foundry eventually and talk to Ashlyn a bit, who offers to give them the notes on Trey that she had from Ashlyn, but most of them had been destroyed. They discuss using him, saying that he needs to stay away from the Nocturne, and that he needs to rest. And if he doesn't, then he will begin to start to take energy from Oshin because the ones that are connected. And there was something else. And that communication with Trey will make him smarter. That Ashlyn had noticed that. Talking with him more, he learned more and was able to speak more and do more. As they're leaving, they pass Mesralock, who agrees to come back in an hour for Pesk so they can go on their date to theater and dinner.
Much to Oshin's delight.
Yeah. A lot of innuendo were dropped that nobody picked up except for Oshin. Yeah. Those two go on their date. Oshin returns to Pinball's tower, tells him Pesk is going on a date, so they go and spy on Pesk on her date. Rosie attempts to find Tyrell, and yeah, I believe that's it.
I think so. I loved the moment where Afra looked at Oshin and just went, "Help her."
Yeah, like,
please.
She's like,
yeah, that was great.
You're dating Pinball, right? You know everything she needs to know. You're not
And it was
wrong.
said just like that.
All right, Heather, you want to take the last one?
I can, yeah. I was actually just working my way through the last little bit of notes.
I was Angela sent a question that I was putting in the chat so we wouldn't forget.
Okay, I'm almost ready. Sorry, my keyboard just decided.
I hate it when that happens.
Okay, so this session ended up being a little stressful for Soxy at the end. So everyone met up in the morning at the Beer Forge. GB delivered a pie to Ivy for breakfast, and they ate and chatted. She doesn't know anything about the five, but he asked her just to find out. Primeheart tended to his garden. Soxy is just keeping her head down and kind of trying to stay away from Nocturne as much as possible after what happened with the situation of Pinball's tower getting destroyed when she and Oshin tried to talk to Trey. She's also been spending quite a few nights hiding at Pinball's, just in case, because she's really freaked out about the idea that she might be connected to the Nocturne somehow. Pip has also decided to start a new business, Pip the Pet Psychic, because he's realized that he's not making that much money by trying to jump up on ships that are coming into port and telling them where the best restaurants are. It's not working out so well for him. So instead, Pip isn't working out well. So he is instead going to rich people's houses in the Pearl District and talking to their pets. You know, he has a couple takers. A couple of people decide to do it, and he makes some money that way. Syl is painting, and since she hasn't seen whatever in a while, she paints a bunch of little black flowers and plants and things all over stuff at some of the parks. Lark went to Green Iron Village after leaving the Erasmus estate.
That's what we forgot.
That's what we forgot.
Lark got told to go to the Erasmus estate the night before. And Jastra sounded sad.
Yeah, Jastra called him over. She sounded sad. And Syl had made brownies, so she sent those with Lark, not knowing where he was going. But Syl doesn't eat, so we're not entirely sure how those brownies came out.
And neither does Mo, so...
Yeah, who I think was helping her.
Yeah.
So he goes and Lark goes and talks to the Green Iron Goblins because he wants to commission a special gift for Mo. He wants to get Mo a decanter of endless oil. And so they negotiate that, and then everyone meets up at the Bear Forge for lunch, just like usual. We run into a nocturne. Well, okay, the group is walking down the road. I don't even remember where we were going, but we had decided we were going to go somewhere. And as we're walking, we see a nocturne coming at us down the road from the opposite direction. It stopped and looked at this little building that was kind of run down, but in front of it was a brand new planter pot. And it kept walking, but right after it walked past the building and the planter pot, this white light shoots out of the pot, just like it did on the ship a couple days before. And it lands and it engulfs this big sphere of an area. And suddenly half of the nocturne that was walking towards us is just gone. And so is a big chunk of the building. And they're screaming and running and people are freaking out. Lark went in and explored the building and found the paintings of the symbol of the 5, the 4 fingers, and the mark across. And the paint is still wet. So we know it must have been done after the thing went off. We don't know how they managed to do it so close together, but somehow. And Haley shows up, so we all give our accounts to her and show her the picture that Lark has drawn and all of that. Syl and GB went to investigate some of the other attack spots on their own because Syl had climbed up on top of one of the buildings right there and seen that there were other places around Barrel Run that had also been attacked. The rest of us started heading to a different one and ended up ultimately finding out there really wasn't anything we could do. There was even one where some of the civilians had been caught inside the burst of light, but there's no credible witnesses other than us. What we saw is the closest thing they have to a first-person witness for the whole situation. We decided to contact Zreet because we wanted to know whether or not she knew anything about the 5 and what was happening. We wanted to find out if they were part of the resistance, basically trying to assess, should we help them? Should we stay away? What do we do with this? And we get there to the Temple District to summon her and realize that since we don't have GB with us anymore, none of us know how to make prestidigitation and summon her. So Primeheart lit a rock with his light spell and threw it up in the air. It didn't go very far, so Lark picked it up and threw it, and then Zreet showed up around the corner just as Pesk was showing up also. So Zreet tells us she doesn't know anything about the Mark of 5, she doesn't know who they are, but they're clearly on the same side as us, at least to a certain extent. They don't like the Nocturnes, and any dead Nocturne is a good Nocturne. She also tells us that we kind of need to stop bugging her quite so much, and we should be trying to gather information and not constantly calling on her or Tira. So she's much nicer about it than Tira was the first time, but she basically tells us the same thing. Start doing things a little more on your own. Don't come to me every time. We need to not see each other constantly because that makes it too obvious. So we decided to go look around for information and head to the docks to see if they had heard anything, since a lot of people go through the docks area and there's a lot of rumors there. Along the way, we stopped at the underground spa where Soxy works as the sign spinner to pick up her paycheck, and she also received a letter there with a burgundy seal that's marked with a fancy G that looks a lot like the king's symbol up on all of the banners. Turns out she has been invited, along with a guest of her choosing, to go to dinner with the king, the queen, and Zeknar Fettles. For anyone who hasn't caught it before, we've mentioned it a couple of times, but Zeknar Fettles is supposed to be a gnome who traveled to Lamina Island and was the one that sort of discovered it. Other than that, it had been rumored to exist before, but the island is just far enough away from the mainland that people hadn't really ever discovered it until then. And Zeknar Fettles wrote the book on Lamina Island. And incidentally, everything Soxy knows about Lamina Island is from Zeknar Fettles' book. So she's very excited to meet him, but also a little terrified because she doesn't remember anything of her past life, and this could be very bad. We continued on to the docks and met up with Harbor Master Theo, who's the one we bribed when we did the Zozo heist and is also Pip's boss. And he did reveal, after we gave him some money, that there was a crate from a ship called the Dancing Chain, which had the same mark of 5 on it, the 4 lines and the 1 across. And that it was on a ship called the Dancing Chain that's owned by a man named Raymond. And he also tells us that on a manifest, there were 2 people who signed for the crate when they picked it up. One is a gnomish woman named Larlo Sarsk. The other is a minotaur, it sounds like. He's a bovine man with shaved down horns, and his name is Shalil Bluehorn. The party then goes on to the Brell estate to meet Swazi because Pesk wants everyone to meet him. And when we get there, Primeheart immediately notices that the gardens are just insanely overgrown and chaotic and decides he's going to fix it. And he's going to leave special places that are sort of sloped and artsy to cover some of Pip's holes so that he's not just got a bunch of little gopher-style holes all over the lawn. Tybalt answers the door and tells us that his wedding with Nathan is off, but invites us inside anyway because he knows we're friends of Nathan's. Pesk gets Swazi, who comes down dressed in a curtain cape. So he's got a red curtain as a cape, and he's got a fake crown on top of his head. He's using like a bracelet for a crown and marching himself down the stairs. Very fancy looking. A bunch of us talk to Swazi. Primeheart talks to Swazi about joining the Resistance and invites him to join, to which it's hard to tell if Swazi actually gets it or not, but Swazi says yes. And then Primeheart decides to go upstairs and talk to Tybalt. And he sort of said he was going to assess whether or not Tybalt wanted to join the Resistance, which I think a lot of us took to mean he was going to sort of try to get Tybalt to say things about how he feels about the king. In actuality, Primeheart went upstairs and basically told Tybalt, "I'm in the Resistance, do you want to join us?" There's a lot more that he said, but the short version is, "I'm in the Resistance, you should join us, you could be a lot of help." He also admits that Nathan is in as much danger as anyone else. So without saying it, he basically admitted that Nathan's also in the Resistance. And when Tybalt flat out asks him if Saldana is in danger because she's part of the Resistance, Primeheart does admit that yes, she is. So it is obvious that Tybalt appreciates his honesty, but we're all a little concerned what's going to happen. And that was where we ended our last session on Saturday.
Oh my.
The Goliaths are doing their best, but
yes,
they need to dial it back a little.
Yeah, the Goliath bros need to bring it down a level. Maybe two.
Yes. Agreed.
All right. And now we get to the part of our show where we talk about your questions. And so far, we only have one question. Well, we have two, because I believe Logan gave us one before we started. But let's go ahead and answer the question that we got from Angela, which was, how many macabre painted park benches does it take to get to the center of a goth poet's heart? And apparently, more than you painted is the answer to that.
I would agree, because whatever hasn't answered us yet, so hasn't answered her yet, so it must take more than that.
Paint some, like, skulls and stuff. Maybe, I don't know what else, but dead flowers, and maybe he'll respond.
Ravens.
Yes. I think he laid down like he was going to die at one point, so dead flowers
yeah, he did.
Very good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then the other question we have from Logan was, who do we ship Mari with?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Well, okay. I know what my answer is, and I need...
Then you go first.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to word it without sounding, like, awful. Nothing against Nathan, but Nathan's a little self-centered, and Mari's very nice. So it doesn't feel like it would be in Mari's best interest, right? For Nathan, so I would say Haley, because I think Haley likes her and Haley cares about Mari openly. Yeah.
My hot take is I am Team Haley. Absolutely Team Haley. Because, I mean, yeah. Oh God, that moment where he's in a beer forge where she's all dressed up, and that moment, like, you could tell she just really loves her, and I'm like, oh, my heart, my freaking heart.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I get that Nathan has the schoolboy crush, but I'm schoolboy crush versus, like, you've been my roommate for years, we've been friends, I know who you are, I know you inside and out, and I love you. That wins out in my book.
Yeah, I have to agree. I feel the same. Like, I have nothing against Nathan, and of course, Caden, we love you. That's like nothing against you whatsoever. But I do feel like personality-wise, at least what we've seen so far, Mari is very, very, very focused on other people and very sweet. And I do think that she's completely oblivious to the fact that Haley has a thing for her. But I also agree that I feel like, based off of the last couple of interactions, Haley has a thing for her, especially the whole, like, leaving before the shepherds went on to play, partly probably because she was starting to realize that Mari, at least at the moment, doesn't appear to have any feelings for Haley. Like, which killed me. I was so sad.
I don't think it's gonna get any better. Oh, my heart.
Yeah, that hurt. I was so sad for her because she's so nice. And now we know she's part of the resistance, just like us. And I'm like, don't hurt. I can't fix it.
To be fair, we don't know if Mar is even interested in women or which genders Mar is attracted to. But yeah,
this is true.
Yeah. I am heavily encamped.
I agree. Yeah. Well, I mean, for the shipping purposes, it doesn't really matter necessarily what character orientations are. We can ship whoever we want, even if it never happens.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any crack ships that are just
crack ships?
Completely outlandish, off the wall, just where the heck does that even come from ships?
Oh, Swazi and Rosie.
I'm there. Yeah. I love it.
I'm not sure how crazy that one is, but I think Swazi and Rosie would be adorable.
Love it. The whole Dirty Dancing lift, I was like, oh, and then the glitter.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, this is so perfect. And no one can understand Swazi. For anyone who hasn't seen Swazi yet, we're constantly having to type the translation into chat just to make sure everybody knows what's being said.
I actually can understand Swazi.
Yeah, I get about 50% of it because I'm used to not being able to understand people when they talk to me, so I know I can pick up just enough to figure it out. It'll take a minute.
Yeah, I can too, which is why I've been typing the translation, but there's a bunch of people who can't understand what he's saying because it's a little too fast and too, like, blurred together. So I just get this great mental image of, like, little Swazi and Rosie, like, walking down the street holding hands, and he's, like, trying to order something, and she just turns and is like, he'll have those potatoes and mash, thanks. Like,
oh my god, yes.
It just, I'm like, oh my god, it's so fucking cute. Like, I'm just picturing Swazi like, yeah, the potatoes and bangers and mash, and that'll be good. And then she's like, he'll have the bangers and mashed potatoes, thank you. Like, it's just so fucking cute.
I love it. I'm trying to think of what the crack. I'm trying to think of crack ships that I have.
Yeah, crack ships.
I can't think of any for that, but I can think of others. Like Nathan and Tybolt, I feel like now that they're actually talking, they have a lot in common.
I actually don't disagree with you. I feel like if Nathan gives Tybalt a chance and vice versa, they might actually end up liking each other.
Yeah, they have a lot in common. Like, not to say anything bad about either of them. Like, this does not say anything bad or particularly good about either of them, but they have a lot in common based on everything that I've seen of both of them. Yeah, not even just the family thing. Like, personality-wise, I feel like they have stuff in common, but Nathan is very against finding that out, so he doesn't know, and now he's like, oh man, we are similar. Like, yeah.
I think at the very least they're going to end up being friends, I hope, by the time this is all over. But I definitely ship them for the same reason. Like, they're starting to realize they actually have stuff in common, and I feel like they might be able to help each other through it. So it's kind of a crack ship only because historically the group has been very anti-Tybalt, which, to be fair, technically shouldn't even be canon because it's from one of our pre-games, sort of. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I had said it before, but she was a little bit wasn't super interested in talking to Tybalt more because she met Tybalt once. Tybalt said one thing to Oshin and it came off kind of rude. So it's like, I literally have never talked to you in my life. Why are you making judgy comments at me? So yeah, that was that. But a lot of other people, I think it was just, yeah.
I still very, very firmly ship Pinball Oshin. Like, that's hardcore.
Yeah.
I think everyone still does. Pinball. Yeah. Hashtag Pinball.
Pinball forever.
If it can last through Oshin finding out that Pinball's indirectly responsible for Oshin not remembering, 50 years, it's fine. It's okay. Things are fine.
I think we got this.
Yeah.
I kind of have like a slight crack ship of Tinker and Finku forever.
Oh, yeah. I don't actually know how much of a crack ship that is. Because I could see it potentially happening if we ever go spend more time with the goblins. We have to go see the goblins more when Russell's playing so that we can have Tinku be a thing.
I want to hang out with the goblins in general.
To be honest, though, I kind of, with Tinker and Finku, just because of their personalities, I almost see it being less like romantic and more like life partners type of ship.
Yeah.
Like somewhat not necessarily fully asexual, because I don't know where both of those characters fall on that whole spectrum, but just very chill, very like you're my buddy, you're my soulmate, but not necessarily like super, super romancy with it. But I think it would be freaking adorable. Oh, and of course, this isn't a crack ship, but Pesk and Mesralok.
I was about to say, I'm very excited to find out what happens there. And if that doesn't work out, I'm sure someone is going to hop on the Mesralok train. Like, someone.
I'm sure.
Plenty of people have hopped on the Mesralok train, if you get my meaning.
Well, okay. So I didn't realize until after the session happened that Oshin took Pinball to go look at Mesralok. I didn't think about that. Abort!
Oh no.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm sure. Oshin's 2 feet taller than Mesralok. It's fine. But yeah.
Tessa does not know how she feels about Pesk Mesralok. I think it's hilarious. I love the character. Pesk is tricky because romantic connections have been very much unexpected on my end. Like, Afra was definitely like, oh, hello. And so it's Haley to some extent. And then Mezzerlock comes in and I'm like, this is hilarious. Oh my God. Definitely a different feeling for both, but we'll see how it goes. I will say that the downtime has been, things went okay. They did not go poorly, so I'm sure Mezzerlock will be around, but I don't know if that's it may be just a fun date buddy kind of thing. I don't know if that'll be a relationship.
Yeah, it's always hard to tell how it's going to turn out with the NPC characters and relationships. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else I ship.
I would very much. I think I would be very happy with if the Afra thing came back, because I feel like that would be kind of sweet. I don't know if it.
I kind of internally ship Pesk Afra still.
Yeah, I have issues with group betrayal, so for me, Afra's like out. Like I don't nah. But that's Heather. I don't know exactly. I haven't thought too hard yet about how Soxy would feel about it.
Another crack ship is I kind of mildly ship a Pesk Primeheart.
I was gonna say that too, actually. That was my next one.
I ship Pesk Primeheart.
I could kind of ship Pesk Primeheart because they're both just so good.
Primeheart could date anybody, and I would probably be okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Primeheart just was great.
Heart. Actually, after this last session, I kind of ship Primeheart Tybalt.
Yeah,
that's really cool. I like that, actually.
That would be another one I could see kind of working out.
Sorry, Nathan, we're giving Tybalt to Primeheart now.
Primeheart also had really cute interactions with Oshie.
I know, I ship him with everybody. Look, Poly Primeheart. Hashtag Poly Primeheart. Everybody loves Primeheart.
In game, everyone marries Primeheart.
There you go.
There we go. Primeheart for all.
Hashtag Primeheart for all. Oh Lord.
Yep.
Okay, Jay, who are your secret ships that you have been keeping under?
My main one is actually from the prequels, and I will tell you after this probably, because, yeah. But, I don't know. I was thinking about it. I don't know.
Oh, while you're thinking, I thought I just remembered one that I had thought of briefly, as it's definitely a crack ship. Yoth Zreet.
No!
Because Zreet had so much fun teasing him. I could very much
visceral reaction to that.
Zreet knows exactly how to get under his skin, and he's like,
that's why
everybody else, but Zreet's the one that can get to him.
That's true.
That's the reason why, is because of all of the people we've interacted with and that he's interacted with. Zreet's the one who managed to get under his skin, get one over on him, and I feel like he would need someone who is going to do that. That's why I ship that.
I will agree with that.
It's definitely a crack ship, though. I don't see that happening ever, but theoretically.
So let's talk Lark Jastra for a second. How are we feeling about this? Are we
I feel bad,
or are we I
feel bad for Saldana's dad, but the way Jastra's talked about it sounds like it's sort of like Saldana and the king. They just were arranged from what it's come off as.
Probably a safe assumption. The difference is that Saldana's dad is actually really nice.
Yeah, that's why I feel bad for him.
I do too. at the same time, I'm not upset by the Jastra Lark at all. Like, I don't know. I don't know that I don't like ship it as a relationship, but I ship both of them just being happy. Even if it's just like a physical, this makes me happy for now kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll be a little less uptight.
That would be nice. Soxy is kind of like, whatever. She doesn't really care. I don't think she actually even knows it's happening, because all of the times it's happened, it's very much something that most of the players know, but our characters don't know. There's very few characters that actually know it happened.
I think Syl and Lark are the only two people that know about it.
Yeah. I was trying to think, because the first time was at the party, and people like Lark just took off to go talk to Jastra, and no one there, I think, would have assumed that's what was going on, because it was like Syl and GB and Pip, and like it was one of the Oblivious parties. This time, he left. I've been trying to figure out who would know, because I think he told Syl he was going somewhere and took the brownies. So Syl knows Lark went somewhere, Mo knows Lark went somewhere, but neither of them are going to come to the conclusion.
The only reason that Syl knows is because she went upstairs to look for Lark and heard them.
Yeah, but as far as I know, she hasn't told anyone.
Logan's comment of "wait for Lark's next downtime" is interesting.
Yeah. So I don't. Soxy doesn't even know, but if she did know, she would just probably be kind of like, "That's very strange," but sure. Heather, on the other hand, is like, okay, whatever. My husband's character is sleeping with someone else's mother. Okay, that's different.
I feel like Oshina's aware they can't say anything about Lark doing anything with anybody, because Oshi knew pinball for like 5 minutes. I think had like 2 conversations, so cannot say anything to anybody about anything.
Do I Soxy ships?
Huh?
I'm trying to think of if I have any Soxy ships.
I generally don't focus on that part with my characters, so I don't think I make it as easy for there to be a ship. Logan, as the DM, would have to weigh in on that, but...
I ship Barrymore pretty darn hard.
Oh, well, that was different, though. That was post-game. But yes. And that's also a Tolis reference.
It didn't have to be. It didn't have to be, Heather.
We actually talked about... Okay, sorry, this is pre-game. This is not Countless Heroes, but there was discussion of that, and it was that neither character was ready to admit it to the other until after. Short version, keeping it succinct. But yeah, no, I often don't do hardcore relationship stuff with my characters. I'm not opposed to it, but I also don't go seeking it. So Soxy hasn't really had any ship stuff, partly because of that.
Can I ship Soxy with finding her memory?
Yes, please ship that.
I do too. Honestly, I don't actually go into games, like full games, intending to pair my character off, but every game I've been in, it happens, and my character's the first one, even though I sit there fully intending it not to happen. In my home game, it happened. This game, very quickly, it happened. Yeah.
I really enjoy it. Personally, I find it a lot of fun. It's not something that's happened in a lot of games that I've played outside of this group. When I first got into role-playing, it wasn't a whole thing, but now I'm very kind of into it.
Getting called out in chat about the...
Oh, okay. I'm less confused now. I'm like, who are those people?
Kaz was my monk, and Irella was the mayor's sister, who was also the only other half-orc that he knew, and they hung out a lot, and then had a really awkward relationship that was, yeah.
Okay, so one of your friends is watching and calling you out.
Yes.
I'm okay with
Hello.
this.
Thank you for calling me out. Happened in my very first tabletop game too. Basically, right away, on accident, just because it worked. I don't know. That's usually how it goes.
It happens. It happens. There's kind of a running joke that in almost every single game that Mike and I have played together, our characters get together at some point, and we're like, no, it needs to stop happening. It's not intentional. It just happens.
It has happened in a couple though. Well, the only one you got together in, like where it was actually you two, was the Fiasco game. But then in several other games, he got together with people that were like related to you.
Well, yeah, that has also happened. But no, in Fires of Valdara, Ciri and Mira just had gotten together.
That's right. Were they actually? Well, they talked about it.
They were talking. They were kind of together. They had like discussed it and were like kind of feeling out how it would work.
Yep. Yeah. And another running joke is that he always ends up with people's mothers. Which
or sister.
Yeah, he ends up with mothers and older and stuff. Yes, in other games he has.
I don't know about Larkin Pesk, but he's done the mother thing, so he's carrying on at least one tradition, I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. Larkin Pesk are both really pure.
They are. Yeah. I could see Larkin Pesk. I could also see Larkin Sill.
I could see Larkin Sill more than I could see Larkin Pesk.
I agree.
But I'm really firmly in the Sill whatever camp.
Yes, I love Sill whatever. Sillever?
Sillever?
Sillever? Siltever? Whatsil?
I mean, Whatsil is probably better.
I don't know what to call it.
I think that'll be really interesting to see unfold, and I really hope she's got him in like pink, all pink by the end of the campaign.
That would be amazing.
It's really the new black.
She might be able to talk him into it if she like lines it all in black so that he can have black inside.
Yeah, just really slowly introducing more and more, and then at the end of the game, he's just standing there in all like pink and glitter, like still doing emo poetry.
Love it. I'd love it.
Yes.
Well, it is 9:30, which means we have been going for almost 2 hours. Should we go ahead and take any last final?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Oh, and you had another ship that you hadn't told us yet.
Who? Me?
Yes, you.
Oh, it was Preludes. It is not Stream. It is Preludes, but I sat on it for a very long time. I was like, I don't know.
You can tell us after if you want. You don't have to.
Yeah, I'm going to, just because I don't want to like give misinformation or something, because involving characters that have been.
All right, Logan, do you have any final questions before your scribe? We got to make sure Logan is paying attention, because we don't want to just be like, "Oh, we're out," and then the stream not end.
Yeah.
God, that'd be awkward.
Oh, he says 1 second. Okay.
I'm trying to
We
think.
might have
I mean,
one more.
Are there any like out there theories that you've had?
Many out there theories. Oh, apparently that was Logan's question.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to. Yeah. Yeah.
I do have one, but I guess if I say it out loud and it's like recorded and people hear it, he's possibly less likely to use it. Possibly.
You know how he is.
It's actually the one I sent to you the other night, Tessa.
Oh my god, I forgot what it was because my brain's so tired. What was it?
So I had a thought, because we know that the Lockridges were involved in VKTR. So I was saying, I wonder if Tybalt is the keysmith. Because that would explain why Tyrell hates him so much, and specifically him.
That's true.
Yeah, that would make sense. But I don't know, because no, actually, he did mention. I meant to ask to make sure I wasn't just like imagining it, but I think he mentioned when he sold the thing to Tyrell, he said that he knew Tyrell from school, but Tyrell knew like Pimble and Afra and Imelda from school. Not, yeah.
Right.
I think that he could also
makes
just
me
be.
think that Tyrell is his own grandfather. I think that Tyrell is Kenneridge.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know. So Tyrell was the actual person, but Kembrick was Lockridge. It was Kembrick Lockridge was supposed to be Tybalt's grandfather. And I'm wondering if somehow he either reincarnated himself or was like reborn into Tybalt or something like that. But I'm wondering if he is somehow the keysmith or somehow related to it.
That's
that would explain why he knew to go after Pimble for his ring, because he would have known about the ring, which
exactly. Yeah,
which we finally mentioned.
Like, I know him from school. It was like, how does he know him from school? Like, he was schoolmates with Pimble and Afra, so I was like,
yeah, I was convinced I like had misheard, but I was like, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I heard that right, but no one picked.
Oh, Logan just put in chat. Tyrell, Tybalt, Pimble, Vassifra, Imelda, the keysmith, and one other intern were all together. Ugh. And then, which NPC do you each think is going to betray the party first? That's terrifying. Fuck
if
you,
you
Logan.
had asked me about like a couple weeks ago, I would have said Pimble. I think about a week or two ago, but I'm less inclined to say that now, just because if he was he seemed genuinely like upset about finding out that what he did hurt Soxy and Oshin, and he's like working himself to exhaustion over. We were told he's a really good actor, so I don't. But he was like actually falling asleep, so like I'm inclined to think he's gonna help us. I'm still suspicious. Oshin is not suspicious at all. Oshin's like, yeah, he's great. He's fantastic. Great guy. He's gonna help us forever. We're gonna all be happy together forever.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, Soxy 100% trusts Pimble because he's dating Oshin and she's seen them together and it's really cute. Heather, the player, is like,
I was thinking, my thought on that though, like I was like, it might still be him. I would still not be terribly surprised if it was him, in the sense that it would be like maybe necessity, and I feel like it maybe, I don't know if it'd be like, it's like wishful thinking, but maybe in a way that it would hurt like Owen, I'm gonna say, just because they argue a lot, like they are at odds, and Pimble seems to have something against Owen, but not Oshin, like in a way that's gonna hurt some of them, but not all of them. Probably not Oshin, and probably not Syl. So
no, I know what you mean. I could also see it being something where Pimble like betrays us, but the reason he's doing it is because he thinks that he's doing the right thing, like not necessarily trying to be evil, betray us, just like doing the right thing. There are other NPCs I could see doing it just to do it. I'm a little concerned about Swazi, because he doesn't, not because he's evil or anything, but because he just doesn't seem to like process everything. So I'm not sure he fully understands what the resistance is and all that kind of stuff. So I'm concerned he's going to say something that's going to get us in trouble because he just doesn't get it.
I honestly, in the most suspicious, not suspicious, but the most worried about Zorit.
Yeah, because she was really visible and nothing happened to her. Aldeon's probably hiding. Zri is walking around the city, flew through the sky, and was fine.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that too.
Or Holly. One of the two. Zri or Holly are like my top two for like actual betrayals.
I don't know if Holly knows enough to do anything, though. I mean, she knows about the Goa. She could betray us on that front, but she doesn't. I don't think she knows that much about like the resistance stuff, like the stuff that's gonna get people, like everybody, thrown in jail / back into jail.
Yeah, that's true.
Get the party made into nocturnes.
I could see Zreet potentially being a problem. I'm also concerned about Tybalt now.
Yeah,
I'm actually less concerned about Tybalt than I am Zreet.
I agree, but
I think we're okay on Tybalt, at least for now, because he's too connected to us to say anything. If he says Nathan's in the resistance, like, you're engaged to Nathan, why would we first off, like, why would, I don't know, like,
yeah,
why would you rat yourself out like that?
He's got too many levels of connection to us, to our particular group, for him to possibly reveal anything. Like, he was engaged to Nathan. He was in talks to be engaged to Saldana. We know that he was having a meeting with Afra and Jastra at the Tea Garden. We don't know what it was about, but that means he probably does some kind of business with Jastra and with Afra. So it's not in his best interest to endanger that relationship. And for all that Jastra has been a controlling, manipulative, berating, horrible mother in some respects, she still has shown that she loves Saldana. So
I had a theory about that, actually, about Jastra, that has not been proven right or wrong either way. I don't know if I want it to be true, but the idea was actually kind of wrong. But the idea was basically that Jastra is actually one of the resistance too, but hasn't said anything because she can't say anything because she doesn't know about, like, everybody else being in the resistance. And that's why she arranged Saldana to be married to the king, because she knows basically everything. And if she found that in, that's like huge for them. It's like, it's too perfect, and Jastra knows too much to think that was a coincidence.
That has occurred to me before, that maybe she has something to do with the resistance. Like, maybe she's one of the leaders of a resistance cell. But it's hard to say.
The main thing that I had, like, the other part of it is, I'm pretty sure isn't true, just because if it was, we would know, and Jastra wouldn't be behaving the way she was. But I was thinking originally it was also a little bit selfish, because it was thinking, like, if you get Saldana in there and you have all this power over Saldana, you're basically the one in charge. But she just seems like sad that she married Saldana off. So, like, I don't think that's part of it. Like, she seems genuinely sad. Like, so I don't think, if that's true, that part isn't true, which is the part I was concerned about. But yeah, I could see, like, if it is true, if Jastra is in some way, shape, or form attached to the resistance, I could see part of her sadness being, like, she was so focused on getting it done and all the good things that could happen, and now it's, like, fully sinking in what she did to her daughter. So the sadness is hitting her because she's realizing that she did this to her daughter, and her daughter is now going to be stuck with the king for an indefinite amount of time. Yeah, it's definitely that's like actually a better outcome than I thought would come from that, if that was true, because I was very, very concerned about, like, Jastra trying to puppet Saldana because she can if she wants to, and she knows she can if she wants to, but I don't feel like she wouldn't be this sad about it if that's what she was planning on doing.
Yeah. I also have concerns about Afra and Xyler. More so Xyler, because he's already shown that he didn't care if someone died in order to get himself away. or themselves. I don't know what gender Xyler was supposed to be.
Yeah, that's yeah. I don't know what to make of the stuff with Afra because I don't know. Like she. I guess it's probably fine as long as she doesn't explicitly know everybody is exactly doing that. But also the main concern was she was focused on keeping the boundary open, and that's fine. Like, that's not an issue anymore. That is indefinitely okay. So she might be okay now to like to have with resistance stuff, because before she was more concerned with like, I'm going to keep this boundary alive no matter what, which probably would have meant like turning people in to be like, no, see, we are loyal. But at this point it's like, well, she doesn't really need to do anything to prove anything to anybody. She just has her forge is open. So
yeah, it is a concern. And the whole idea of this read is like, no, she doesn't fit the profile. It worries me.
Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely a lot of different things occurring that concern me, and we all know Logan well enough to know that none of us have any fucking clue what's happening. So
I was actually, hey, Autumn. Yeah.
Hello. Yes, we agree with you.
I'm not concerned about Tyrell at all, actually, because as long as we leave him alone, we're probably fine.
Yeah, I'm not too worried. I could see him doing something to us because we're in his way,
or because,
but not like intentionally going after us.
Maybe to the people at the Brella Estate, though, as well, because they have Tybalt there. Like, but I don't. But like, first off, most of them aren't there 90% of the time. They're out. They're doing things. So it would be probably more of doing something to the estate versus like the people within it, because they're not. But yeah. But other than that, I don't know. I don't know. Kind of wondering how that whole thing is going to turn out, because now we got kind of, both sides. We can keep an eye on both sides, kind of, to see what's going on with that. Also, I was going to say, selling the air shell to him, I actually had thought about it, and I don't know if I'm that concerned about it, because that's what he used for the spell on Saldana. I think he's just using it for spells, and he was using it for spells to get to Tybalt. So, like, I don't know. Some people seem really concerned about that, but I am not that concerned about that. I think that's just like, that's where he got it. It was just kind of an answer to a question that no one really asked, because no one really thought about it.
Yeah, I could see that. Who else? You know who else I'm concerned about is First.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I'm not concerned that he's necessarily going to betray the fact that we're all in the Resistance and all of that, because he doesn't really know that much about that side of things. But I'm concerned that he would do something against us if he thinks that we can give him information on how to make Morgoa the same way. That's what concerns me, is that he's going to come at us for that information.
Or the people kind of like shelved that whole thing because they know basically just don't cast a spell and we're good. But like, if they find out that basically we're spreading the information that don't cast a spell and you're fine is going around, that they're kind of preventing Morgoa from being made, he might be upset about that. Yeah. Which, I don't know. At this point, it's been a little bit. He might have come to be like, hey, what's going on? But he had said something about having a lot of time, I think. One of them, either him or Syl, had talked about, they both did talk about living for a really long time. He's very patient. That might come back in a while, but will probably come back.
Yeah, I'm concerned about all of them, though, because all of them basically, the four Goa that were created by the Daydream, basically all said they didn't care if flesh people had to die if it meant they could make another Goa, which concerns me a lot.
I'm honestly just concerned about the rebellion folks that we don't know in general. How do we know? I mean, yeah, Vampire King, not great. Are we really the best solution?
Yeah, because we don't know, like, who they are or what they're doing. I don't know if we want to be connected to them or what. Yeah. I don't know about Eris. Isn't gonna do anything outright bad, but I'm not sure about like having him help. I mean he's gonna help.
He's
but,
too
like,
honest.
Like, he's gonna help if he's gonna help, but like, let's not coordinate with it. Let's just let it line up if it lines up, and then let him go on his way. Like, don't like all the eggs in the Eris basket, I guess.
No, I agree with you on that one too. And Autumn just put in chat, yeah, what else is the rebellion doing? Worrying. Yeah, I agree. It is concerning because we only know what our cell is doing. We don't know what all the other cells are doing. So we're only getting bits and pieces.
I was kind of disappointed that we had killed the Keeper so quickly because I really kind of wanted to know what he was doing and why we were sent to kill him. I was like, and he's dead. Shit.
I don't know if I had misheard or not, but I thought he was like actually actively working on something. I thought I had heard that, and then like no one looked over it. So like, I guess that he wasn't.
None of us looked at it.
Yeah,
literally none of us looked at what he was looking at.
Did you? Well, I think didn't that game run long?
Yeah, so
because
we
the combat over it. Took a long time. So yeah, so that's concerning though because we don't know what he was working on.
Pesk even went, "What you doing?" when we walked in, and then it was just like boom. I'm like, well, never mind. That question's not getting answered.
Oh, God. I think if there's anything else.
I thought of more, but I didn't know what.
So the answer, Logan, is everyone. We are worried about everyone. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for creating so many ambiguous NPCs. We love and hate you. I could
probably rank them, maybe, but that would be hard.
Well, because there's different rankings. There's rankings in terms of who do you trust the least, and then there's also rankings in terms of who knows the most and could fuck us over the most.
Yeah, it's like
that is definitely Zreet, top of that list.
Zreet is top of that list on both counts for me. I am very worried about Zreet.
The characters list would be very different, but yeah, it would be very different. It'd be like, Afra knows a little bit more than I feel like I've been trying to keep a little bit from Afra, but she knows a little more. Tybalt, I don't know him, don't trust him. Everybody else is okay. Like, leave Tyrell alone. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. The players have a different list also than the characters would. Because, like, character-wise, the person that... Well, okay, in terms of someone not immediate party betraying us, Zreet would still be at the top of the list just because she's the boss, so she knows the most about us and can fuck us over the most. But in terms of who Soxy would trust the least to not betray us, oh, that's a tougher one.
We still have that missing that handwriting that nobody knew who it was with the Nocturne. We still don't know who that was. So
no, we still don't know.
I do want to say
we know there's one person somewhere who has the 20th book from our cell, and we don't know who it is. So that NPC also concerns me.
Yeah. I do want to say, though, the Keysmith was on the list of who's going to betray the party first. He kind of already has. So he can't, despite the virtue of he already has. So either that or he is the correct answer because he kind of already did before the game started because it's his fault.
Fair.
That Oshin and Soxy. Oshin will throw him off the cliff. That is Oshin's feelings. Keysmith, and then like there's a lot of blank space than everybody else.
Yeah, knowing what we know now. Yeah.
Really quickly, Autumn. So we earlier listed our pairings for Mari. Who do you ship Mari with? I'm curious to see if...
That is a good question.
The music got real serious. Like, this is the most important question of the night.
shipping music. Watch, Autumn has already left. She's like, I don't...
She's still in chat. But, oh, there we go.
Yeah,
I was going to say earlier she said that her internet was in and out. So if we lose her, that may be why.
I did have a thought about. I did think about talking about like the NPCs. I thought about it earlier. We do have something that we could maybe at least. I don't want to say blackmail, but like get Tybalt to help us, which is we know what happened to his family, and he may not.
Ooh,
Like I did that thought occurred to me
true.
this morning. If it comes down to it, it's like, well, you tell us stuff or whatever. We tell you what happened to your family. You're not gonna like it. Sorry.
Yeah. There's a lot of things happening. I'm trying to think which characters. I think Soxy's the only one we haven't created a ship for with somebody. Oh, Pip. Pip doesn't have a ship.
Pip.
Who would we ship Pip with?
Ship Pip with food.
Right, egg tubes.
Egg tubes. This case of egg.
Oh God.
We ship Pip with egg tubes.
I'm not sure how Kyle would feel about that. Yes, we agree with you, Autumn. We think that's why she went home so sad looking after the being at the bar and everything. But yes, Pip and egg tubes. I think that's the ship for Pip.
I should Pip it.
Ship Pip Pip it.
Yeah.
Pip, 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 pip.
Why is my name being yelled in chat?
Don't know.
Should I be concerned? I don't know. I don't know what set Logan off. All I see is my name with an exclamation point at the end. What did I do?
That's the ship for Pip.
Okay.
The Pip Pip. That is the ship. We just ship Pip with himself. Okay, so my actual... I just kind of thought of a crack ship that is really cracky because you haven't even met him. I kind of, like, anticipate a ship between Soxy and Zeknar. I can see that.
I mean, it's not impossible, I suppose, depending on what he's like. He did spend a lot of time with the Chitons when he was on Lamina Island, so he might have developed exotic tastes in women. That'd be extremely exotic, but it's possible. We also haven't had any Chiton NPCs yet. I mean, we're still early in the game, so who knows if we're going to or not. But that may play a factor too. I don't know. You know me, I'm in no huge rush to have a relationship situation go on for my character. If it happens, it'll happen, and it'll be what it is.
Your antenna are plumping.
God. Oh my God.
I don't think that's good.
I don't either. Sucks you.
I mean, damn girl, your colors are huge.
God.
So bright.
I think she would run the other way.
We did have that dockhand who was like, "Hey, baby," when you walked by. Like, we did have that one guy who was in the who was like, "Hey,"
the like half orc dockhand that winked at Soxy sexily, and she was kind of like, "The fuck are you doing?" And kept walking.
He's dead now, so.
Oh, he's super dead. Yeah, super duper dead.
I was like, I don't know how I forgot about that because he immediately died. That's why I forgot about it.
Yeah, because he died right away. Soxy wasn't gonna pursue that anyway. we literally pulled one over on him and stole shit from his ship. Not going near that one. But yeah,
I'm afraid that we gave him an idea of plump antenna disease. Oh no!
Oh, God.
We already have one disease subplot going on. Like, it would just be redundant if there was another one. I feel like
I'm a paladin. I'm immune to disease.
That's also true.
That doesn't mean he won't try, but I'm presently immune to disease. Leave me alone, Logan.
All right, guys, it is almost 10 o'clock, so I am going to go ahead and call it for the evening, unless there are any last-minute questions. We'll give you 2 minutes to give us any last questions.
Yes, last-minute questions and/or ships.
I had a question, but I don't feel like it would necessarily apply because everybody seems mostly friendly with each other, but basically because doubt is being cast on party, there's no one like within the party that you're kind of like, I don't know if I'm gonna hang out with this person as much. I don't feel like is that with many people.
I don't think there's any one person that Soxy dislikes or anything like. Oh, there goes my dog running up the stairs. Sorry. There's no like one person. Oh my God, dogs! That Soxy dislikes. I approve, Autumn. But she still hasn't really met Yoth, so I don't think she would be quick to hang out with Yoth just because she hasn't met him. Like, nothing against Aiden, nothing against his character, just entirely I haven't met him in game, so she's not going to be as interested in hanging out with him.
Yeah, less like, who does your character like dislike? Because I don't think anybody dislikes anybody, but it's kind of like we're work friends. Who's the one that you might like? We know who you would hang out with outside of work, but who would you not? If like outside of the Resistance, we probably wouldn't be hanging out. I don't know if there is.
Yeah, I don't know that I would. There's very few people that I would be like, yeah, no, this is strictly a work arrangement. Like Pesk genuinely enjoys pretty much everybody in the party. Maybe I think possibly Yoth just because she doesn't know him, and maybe Nathan a little bit just because Nathan seems very cagey. Yeah, cagey. When Lark went to heal him for the first time, and he kind of like pulled away and was like, "Don't touch me." Pesk was like, "What is that?" So that's kind of been like a little bit of a, I don't know how to handle that. I mean, I love Caden. So,
I like everybody. I like all the characters. Again, I'm gonna put that out there.
We personally like everybody.
Yes, we like you.
Yeah, we like all the characters. We like all of the players.
I was just kind of curious because, like, I don't know. I feel like everybody's like a lot of the NPCs' ambiguity is coming forth, and I feel like player character ambiguity, maybe like if some of them are sort of ambiguous, like some of us have our own agendas and some of us have things that we want that like may or may not, like, I mean, do line up with everybody else, not gonna, but like it's personal and we have things we want to do that other people may not be like as interested in or whatever, things like that.
That's true. I definitely.
What about you, JD? Does Oshin have somebody he's not like super buddy with?
Oshin,
I mean, aside from Owen,
Oshin doesn't. If Oshin hung out with Owen and Owen was sassy versus like doctor mode the entire time, it'd probably be fine. Oshin won't willingly hang out with Yoth because he watched Yoth drink the egg drop beer, and that was kind of gross. That's it. That's the only reason it was gross. Like, Yoth's kind of gross
with you because you drank egg beer.
Like, I will hang out with him, but gross. Doesn't want to watch him do that again. And it's like probably right now, just because the last few encounters with him were kind of unpleasant, not super, like, sort of like, I'll talk to Nathan, but like, he talks about himself so much. No one else does this. He talks about himself and his family and everything, and makes everything so heavy. I don't know about that. And also the conversation, it kind of came off as like it wasn't just Oshin, but the conversation in the carriage about like where Nathan was basically like, the king took everything from me, to like Oshin and Syl and like other people who are also suffering, was kind of,
I will say your response was A++ at that. I was like,
but that was that's it. But it's not like, oh, she hates anybody. It's just like, I don't want to watch Yoth drink that sin again. And Nathan talks about himself so much. Nathan is so sad and makes everybody else sad, and I don't like being sad.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that Soxy's actually spent much time with Nathan. I'm trying to think. I think I've only played a couple of times with Caden, so it hasn't really been a thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But in terms of the other characters, Soxy doesn't have a problem with any of them. She just isn't as interested in spending time with, like, Yoth because she knows he exists, but she's never actually met him. Or, yeah, I don't know.
Or I mean, even Lanik, because I haven't.
Yeah,
really spent any time with Lanik either.
I've never played with Loki, who's taking a break right now. For anyone who's wondering who that is, we have 2 players taking a break for life because it happens. One is Loki, who plays Lanik, our dwarf, who's a dwarf ranger?
Ranger, yeah.
Yeah. And then we have Aiden, who's taking a break. He plays Yoth, our Braith fighter. So they're both on break right now. That's why they're not actively playing. But because of their breaks, some of our characters haven't actually played with them yet. Oh, hi, Kat. Sorry.
We had a question from Autumn. How many arms does Soxy have? And also, she ships Owen with coffee, which is a good ship.
Fair and canon, I think.
I ship Owen with coffee and whiskey. Specifically, coffee with whiskey in it. Yes, it's a kitty. This is Mowgli. He doesn't come on stream as often, but he's the one that's always screaming in the background if you hear it. He's very loud. But Countless Chronicles is more informal, so I can pick him up and hold him and make him stop yelling. In terms of legs, what we had determined so far, so Soxy has 4 arms and her 2 bipedal legs. So she walks upright like a human. And then her arms-wise, she has her 2 primary arms, and she still has another set of arms below that, but we have been picturing them as being more vestigial. So they exist, and she can make gestures with them, and they can probably hold very, very light things. Like if she was doing some sort of crafting, she could probably, hold her pen or something in one of the vestigial hands, but they can't carry a sword. They can't pick up heavy things. They're not designed for that. They're more like remnants of when the chitons were actual just bugs running around, but they still have those. And then she has wings underneath her shell on her back.
And that's only a specific cast of chitin that have the wings, right?
Well, all of the chitons have wings, but the size and abilities of those wings differ. So there's 3 casts of chitin. There's the royal cast. There's what we're referring to currently as the dominant cast, because we just haven't thought of a better name for it yet. They're basically the majority of chitons. And then there's the miscast. The miscast are the ones who... So all chitons look pretty much the same. So most chitons look like Soxy. All the chitons of Soxy's cast look like Soxy. There's slightly different color variations, but overall they all look the same. And then the royal cast, again, look pretty similar, but they have a slightly different head crest situation. So instead of having the horns on the side of the head, they have something more in the middle. The miscast, though, can look like anything. So basically, we designed the miscast to be for any player who wants to play a chitin. They want to play a beetle person, but they don't want to be all bright and colorful. So like if you want to play one of the Hercules beetles, or if you want to play some sort of rhinoceros beetle and have the giant thing coming out of your head, then you would play miscast. And what it means is you don't physically fit the other casts. So you're still part of the group, you're still part of the colony, you still have an important role and an ability, but you don't look the same. So some of those may not have wings because that would be dependent on what the player wanted to do with it. But the royal cast can flutter their wings and mesmerize someone. That's the ability we had given them, so that basically they become dazzled for a round or two, and you have to concentrate on it to make it do it. But they like flutter their wings really fast, and the shining light coming off of it dazzles someone. So their wings are probably smaller and can move faster, but not carry weight. Whereas my cast, the dominant cast, can actually fly. And then the miscast all have a poison spray ability. So all the exact mechanics are still being worked out, but that is the very long answer to your question. Sorry.
No worries. Alrighty, it is 10 o'clock. I think we should go ahead and give it a call. What do you think, guys?
Yeah. I think so. Unless anyone who's in chat has a last minute question for us, I think this is probably a good place for us to call it.
Yes.
Okay, and Autumn agrees with us that Owen is shipped with whiskey.
That's fair. It's completely fair. Let Owen be sassy with his whiskey.
I agree.
No, Owen is not shipped with Angela's dog. Owen is shipped with the liquor in his coffee, Logan.
Really? Although, in reality, Joe would love to have a dog. So he would be very happy to have Whiskey the dog live with him.
All right, guys. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and call it for the night. You can catch us again tomorrow night at 7 o'clock with the actual game. And then you can catch us again in 2 weeks reviewing those 8 episodes that will be up at that time. So until then, have a wonderful couple of weeks. Or if we see you tomorrow, have a good rest of your night. And then we will see you sometime soon, I hope.
That's right. So don't forget to tune in tomorrow for our 30th episode.
Oh my gosh. That's a lot.
It is. Yep. I can't believe we've hit 30 already. Yep. And should we talk? We should probably talk about our sponsors real quick, even though we're doing the recap.
Our sponsors are World Anvil. Be sure to check them out. They are a comprehensive world building database. They are amazing. They are wonderful. Please visit worldanvil.com and check out what they have to offer. You can actually see the world of Vale as we're building it here for this campaign, with information about all of our homebrew races, all of the characters, NPCs, backstories, locations, etc. As also, we do this stream as a charity stream. All proceeds from any subscriptions and donations, either at our website on nerdsmith.org or here on Twitch, the proceeds go to support the Trevor Project, a anti-bullying suicide prevention program for LGBTQ youth. So thank you, guys.
Yep, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.